Hello, everybody. Let's do it. Welcome. I'm Lee Camp. This is Dangerous Ideas. Thanks for being here. I'll be getting into what Aaron Bushnell, or is it Bushnell, achieved in his act. It is a tragic act, but at the same time, it achieved some pretty impressive things in some regard, and I'm going to get into that, talking about that, but also updates on Nord Stream. There's new information there. I will also be showing you various videos of what's been going on with Israel's special genocide operation, including the mass walkout of diplomats at the UN during the Security Council meeting. Anyway, a lot to cover, a lot to get into. I am glad you're here. Please take a moment to click thumbs up and share and all those good things. But let's dive into it. As you know, well, actually, I'll get to Bushnell in a second. More on him. I covered him yesterday, obviously. I covered that story yesterday as well. But let's start off by talking about how Al Jazeera is reporting that worsening famine could kill thousands in the coming days. Thousands in Gaza could die in the coming days due to famine. And this, of course, is the goal of Israel. I've been saying it for a long time now that the goal of Israel has been to stop food and water, etc., in order to hopefully kill more people. Because when you're committing genocide, you don't really care how they die or why they die or who dies. You just want them all to die. And Israel is committing genocide. They are committing ethnic cleansing. And if you don't believe me, just go ahead and ask former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who wrote an op-ed and said they are hoping, Netanyahu and his right-wing government are hoping to cleanse, quote unquote, the Gaza Strip as well as the West Bank. So, yeah, you don't trust me. Trust the former Prime Minister of Israel. But, yeah, they're saying thousands could die in the coming days from the ongoing famine. Israel continues to do to perpetrate horrific war crimes, such as this video of them. There was a bunch of kids, and there's been many reports on this, a bunch of young people in Gaza flying kites because there's not much else they can do. They have no electricity. They barely have food. So they've been flying kites for entertainment and also to, kind of acknowledge that they're still there and their existence, etc. And here is video of Israel attacking, shooting at, I don't know enough about military shells to know what kind of shells. There's some were saying it could even be white phosphorus. I don't know about that, but bombing and attacking the people flying kites in Gaza. It's very evident they were flying kites. It's not like Israel thought it was something else. No, they knew exactly what they were doing, and they were attacking children, mainly children, flying kites. So that's what Israel's up to, just such a bold, brave, caring country. Really, really cares a lot about human beings and humanity, and they're really showing it, that they care about civilians. So I want to get into a little bit about Aaron Bushnell and what he achieved, which is kind of crazy that he actually did achieve this. Now, I don't want to pretend it's not tragic. It is tragic, and I don't want to pretend that anyone else should do what he did. Most of you know by now, he lit himself on fire, self-immolated outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., where I lived for 8 years. I didn't live in the Israeli embassy, I'll have you know. Thank goodness. That I only lived in the Israeli embassy for 2.5 years, but the rest of the time, no, I lived in Washington, D.C. For 8 years. Anyway, and he filmed himself doing it. He made his goals and his reasons very clear. He said he's doing this because he did not want to be complicit in genocide any longer. And he achieved something that I didn't think we'd see, which is the mainstream media actually saying the word genocide, at least some of them. Here is a video of CNN. Actually, now they're quoting him, but still, that doesn't change the fact that this is CNN saying that a genocide is being committed by quoting Bushnell's words.
In his military fatigues, he's speaking calmly to the camera. I want to read a portion of what he says. He said, quote, "I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest but compared to what people have been experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it is not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal.
So there it is. He actually got CNN to call this a genocide, to talk about the fact that U.S. troops, right? He was an active service member, an active airman, and he got them to talk about the fact that this is a genocide, the fact that a genocide is being committed in real time. And unlike genocides in the past, even the Holocaust, we around the world are watching it. We're seeing video of it. I mean, yes, television barely maybe existed in World War II. I know it was not in many homes. I don't know when it was for, because it was in the 1950s was when it really started. Television started being in most homes, but people were not seeing. And of course, they could go watch. Sometimes they'd have it before the movies. They'd have a little bit of news. They could go watch a little bit of news about the Holocaust, well, they wouldn't talk about the Holocaust, but about World War II. But this is the first time we're seeing a Holocaust really in real time being fed around the world. We can all watch it. And, it is sad that this guy, Aaron Bushnell, felt the need to kill himself in order to make the point. But it is clear he didn't want to be a part of it. And the U.S. military is a part of this. And I have covered that a lot on these live streams. It is something our mainstream media largely ignores almost entirely. The fact that not only is the U.S. military over there, there's 1,000 or more troops of various kinds in Israel. There are apparently 2 small U.S. bases in Israel. Of course, we're sending bombs and arms and everything else to Israel. That's been discussed a lot. But on top of that, you have the New York Times admitting that the CIA helps Israel assassinate Palestinians. You have surveillance drones over Gaza that are being flown and piloted, and the information is coming to the U.S. military, and the U.S. military then gives it to the IDF, gives it to Israel to help perpetrate their genocide. You also have the fact that I covered this as well. The Intercept showed a memo from the Pentagon telling troops, I believe there were troops, U.S. troops in Iraq, to be ready to be involved in an Israeli invasion of Gaza. Now, the Pentagon memo did not mean that was going to happen. It's just saying be ready. And many people have been sharing around the order or whatever, the memo, saying that it's mandatory for airmen, for military personnel, if they're ordered to go to Israel, it's mandatory for them to go to Israel. Now, some people are making more out of it than others. It does not, as far as I know, it does not mean Bushnell had orders to go to Israel. I have not heard anybody saying, that has any evidence that he was ordered to go to Israel. But a lot of people are making a lot out of the word mandatory, but every Pentagon order is mandatory. There's no non-mandatory Pentagon order. They're never just like, if you're feeling up to it, just go to Israel. If you're feeling like you'd enjoy it, then go bomb Iraq for us. That'd be great. If you could just go attack Syria, just if you have some off time. No, they're all mandatory. So a lot of people are saying, it says mandatory. It's a mandatory go to Israel. And yeah, if they were to order them to Israel, it would be mandatory for them to go to Israel. But let's go back for a moment to the fact that Bushnell actually got our mainstream media, and I don't know if it was more than CNN, but I think maybe a couple others have read or printed his statement that he said, has gotten them to talk about the fact that this is a genocide and that he means the military, but American people in a lot of regards are complicit in this genocide. Blood is on our hands, especially for those people who are endorsing it or not standing up against it or not speaking out against it, especially if you have a platform. So all of these celebrities that are just silent on it, it's disgusting. But let's talk about this word for a second. And here is I'm going to play 1 minute of this scholar on genocide. Her name is Karen DeVito, and she talks about whether this is a genocide.
As a scholar of genocide, I have to say that many people use this word in a way that is not right. However, this is a textbook case. If you look at the definition, it has a legal definition. Genocide has a legal definition. It's not a dictionary definition. It has many conditions. And most of them are being carried out by Israel. So I feel confident to say it's a textbook case of genocide. I don't think we have seen this in the last century. Yes, there have been some terrible wars, but we have to keep in mind that this is not really a war. It is a genocide against a people. States declare wars on other states, but this is a war on people. And so this destruction is beyond what we see. It is destroying everything.
Yeah, well said. Something I've been saying for a while now, many people have been saying for a while now, this is a textbook definition of genocide. This you could not get any more. And as I keep repeating, you can go to the Holocaust Memorial Fund's website and they have a definition, the UN's definition of genocide printed on their website. And you can look at it and go, check, 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 check. Every single aspect of genocide is being committed right now by Israel. And you know, when it comes to Bushnell doing something so tragic and so stark and so unreversible, to call attention to this, and you see our mainstream media trying to refute him in one way or another. The Washington Post is like he was connected to anarchists. Because thanks to a lot of propaganda, people just have immediate negative views of anarchists. I don't know how connected he was. I know he was involved in mutual aid, which is, yes, mutual aid is often anarchist spaces, but guess what? It's entirely about feeding and helping people. That is the whole point of mutual aid. If you need help or food, they will give it to you if they have the means. And that is the whole point of mutual aid. So if that's what the Washington Post means by he was involved in anarchism, then that's pathetic that they're using him bagging groceries and giving them away to people as proof of anarchism. But it also has to do with the fact that the propaganda against the idea of anarchism, which you don't have to support it to understand it better, just like you don't have to support communism to understand communism, to understand what it actually is, as opposed to what the propaganda is. A lot of people just hear the word anarchism and they just picture things on fire and everybody going, ah, and then people running by with their tits out. Like that is what people, I think, thanks to propaganda, believe of anarchism. Whereas most, well, maybe almost all people who consider themselves anarchists, it basically means that there is no rulers over them. So most people can think, if it helps, you can think about the root of the word. Oligarchy is ruled by an elite business class, right? Plutarchy or plutocracy is ruled by, thieves is kleptocracy, or plutocracy is ruled by the rich. So it would be a plutarchy if you change the whatever grammar, hashtag grammar. Anyway, so anarchy or anarchism is zero rulers. It is a world without people ruling over you, and without a hierarchy. And at its root, that's what it means. So they're using that to tarnish him and attack him. Another thing they're saying a lot about Aaron Bushnell is mental health. Oh, he's mentally ill. It's just mental illness and other things. And I don't know enough about him. I don't know what his mental state was at all. But I do find it interesting that we say that immediately with someone like him. But I would argue that when someone says they're joining up for the military to help the U.S. empire murder children around the world, why would you not say, let's talk about your mental health? Let's talk about that mental health. Or how about the cop, for example, the cop that pointed a gun at him as he was on fire, because that's clearly what he needed, was someone pointing a gun at him. Let's talk about that cop and his mental health. How about when someone joins up to be part of the police and thinks that is going to be a good thing to do, run around and support the fist of the fascist state? Should we ask about their mental health? Maybe. What's going on with you, buddy? Why are you doing this? Why do you want to be a part of this? So there's a lot of things where I think we should probably ask about mental health also when people join up for the military or support the military or support this genocide that Israel's perpetrating right now. Let's talk about your mental health, man. Why is it you think bombing children is just acceptable and fine? Let's talk about how your mental health is. But no, we only do it in cases like Bushnell, or with other cases like Edward Snowden and Assange. We say, oh, they're just insane, right? That they want the truth out there. But, and another group of people I'd like to ask about their mental health is some of these journalists, so-called journalists, putting out articles like these. These are some of the articles that have been written recently in our mainstream media. It's the Wall Street Journal. Welcome to Dearborn, Michigan, America's jihad capital. That's a headline of one of them. Another one, this is New York Times, from the great, and I mean that with as much sarcasm as possible, the great, the amazing, the incomparable Thomas Friedman. And I mean incomparable in the same way, like Darth Vader's incomparable. His article was titled "Understanding the Middle East Through the Animal Kingdom," basically comparing Palestinians to animals. And then this also from the Wall Street Journal: Chicago votes for Hamas, which, for those of you who remember the actual story, it was that the Chicago City Council voted for ceasefire, for not murdering kids anymore. That's what they voted for. And so that's some of our mainstream media. And we're not asking about the mental health of those folks who are endorsing genocide filled with racism, filled with hate. I don't hear a lot of questions about their mental health. But let's listen to a quick clip about this same topic from Lula da Silva, the president of Brazil. Most of you know him. He's been doing a lot of very important things down in Brazil. Anyway, he was speaking on this. And for those, maybe I'll try and read it at the same time. I don't know. For those of you listening to the podcast, this is just going to be in Spanish. I don't know how your Spanish is, but maybe I'll try and read it as it goes. What the Israeli government is doing to the Palestinian people is not war, it's genocide. Read the interview I gave in Ethiopia. Read the interview instead of judging me. Based on what the Prime Minister of Israel said, it's a genocide. There are thousands of children dead, thousands missing. It's not soldiers who are dying. Women and children are dying inside the hospital. If it isn't genocide, I don't know what it is. And, this is yet again, there are leaders around the world. There are leaders around the world who are fighting back against this. There are people around the world. 80% of the world's population is in areas that are against this, are against Israel's genocide. Now, we have Joe Biden the other day, maybe yesterday, say that there might be a ceasefire on Monday while he was eating ice cream. Some of you have seen that clip. Dude, there is nothing more that could look like a senior who's been taken on an elders field trip where they leave the nursing home and they kind of walk him around by the elbow. And he's like, I get ice cream. And they give him ice cream. And so he's got a giant ice cream cone. And he says that there might be a ceasefire come Monday. And, a lot of people are putting a lot of weight on that, saying, Joe Biden knows there's going to be a ceasefire. But it also could be a very senile man saying words that came up to him. So who knows what it actually means? I don't know. I want to thank user Byron Rom, just became a monthly supporter on Rumble. You're goddamn a hero. You're the best. Love you guys. And for those of you who don't know, maybe new to my stuff, it's completely supported by you. I need you guys to become members or supporters in one way or another. And so, the super chats help, the becoming members over at leecamp.net. which is my locals page. That's amazing. It's only $6 a month, 38 cents an episode. Anyway, I'll talk more about that later. But so there's Lula da Silva speaking up about it. AMLO, of course, has been talking a lot about it. And for that, he has been attacked. He is being attacked by U.S. media, the president of Mexico, because he is left-wing, and that's not acceptable to the U.S. empire, right? We can't have a left-wing president in Mexico. And you might wonder, and there's an election coming up in Mexico, and you might wonder, why are they attacking him if he can't run again? And then others of you might go, he can't what? Mexico can only run once for 6 years. I believe it's 6 years. And his term is up. And the reason they're attacking him is because the person who I think is in the lead in the polls is his successor. And she is left-wing like he is. And the U.S. is trying to connect her and him to like narcos and stuff like that. And so even the New York Times is getting in on the act. And so for anybody who was confused as to whether the New York Times is a pro-coup outlet, is a pro-U.S. empire, U.S. hegemony, destroy other nations and watch people suffer in order to help the U.S. ruling elite maintain their power on the world, you should know that's what it does. That's who they are. That's what the New York Times is. But I want to bring another, this perhaps is the only other time that genocide has been mentioned on the mainstream media. However, it's not being said by a reporter, which is an important difference. This is MSNBC decided. So there's when is the Michigan primary today? Is it going on today? Let's see. Results are expected at 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so it's today. And there's been a big push for people to write non-committed in instead of voting for Democrats, to write non-committed in rather than writing Joe Biden, to make a point that he needs to actually make an effort to end this genocide, meaning not just say, oh, I want a ceasefire, but actually stop shipping money and bombs to Israel, along with the other ways that we help this genocide. So MSNBC, the Democrat network, right, who's supporting any kind of war criminal as long as they're a Democrat, they went to Michigan and they actually spoke to a couple of these non-committed voters. And it's pretty hilarious because the MSNBC reporter can't even wrap her head around you. How could you not vote for Joe Biden? He's not Donald Trump. That's all that matters. And she really can't wrap her head around it. And just watch these people, these voters, blow her mind.
Is there a pathway forward for you with Biden?
By pathway forward, she means, is there a way for us to force you into voting for Joe Biden?
Oh, absolutely not. You cannot keep killing people with our money and just keep thinking that, oh, we are stupid enough to elect you again, because we'll fall in line. We'll forget. Like, this is an insult to me as a voter.
For you, Biden has a pathway forward.
Biden has a pathway forward. It's not.
And what does that look like?
That is him calling for a permanent and immediate ceasefire. The straightforward, simple answer for the Biden administration is push for a ceasefire, stop aiding Israel in their war crimes, and I guarantee you there are enough people who would be willing to deal with it and vote for the man.
So the key words there are not push for a ceasefire, because the Biden administration has been pretending to push for a ceasefire, pretending to do various things. So the words don't matter. But the key words that he just said are stop aiding Israel in the war crimes, which I guarantee you, whether there's a ceasefire or not, Biden and the administration and the U.S. government are not going to stop aiding Israel in the war crimes. Let's remember how severely our Congress is in bed with Israel or AIPAC or others that support this genocide. They voted 412-1 to basically equate criticizing Israel with anti-Semitism. They voted 97-0 in the Senate to keep sending bombs to Israel. So I guarantee you they're not going to stop funding, arming, everything Israel. So, you know, what he's saying will not happen. I guarantee you that. Also, can we all talk about the epic jacket he has on? I mean, that thing. I got to get me one of those. That is amazing. Especially if you're going to have an interview about genocide, you got to have yourself a jacket like that. I mean, because you're not going to have a lot of lighthearted moments in an interview about genocide, about the murder of children. And so you got to have a blazer with some roses on it. I mean, that's how you do it. That's how you do it.
For the man, it is me to have the Democratic Party and the Biden administration sit here and essentially say, if Trump happens, it's your fault.
If you don't.
Yeah, so of course, you guys know this part. The whole gimmick is you got two parties that are essentially the same party in all but name. In some very slight issues, they are actually different, genuinely different, but it's not much. And they get all the Democrats to vote for a complete corpse of a human being who is a war criminal, and no one has received more money from Israel than Joe Biden. No one has received more money from cops and credit card companies than Joe Biden. No one has fought for more military spending, cop spending. He has stood up and been the vanguard of pushing for more money to kill children around the world throughout his entire goddamn career, which has lasted roughly 217 years. So there is no one. And yet we are told, oh no, Trump is the only bad guy. He's the only bad one. And if you don't vote for Biden, then you're getting Trump elected. Well, actually, you know who gets Trump elected? And I mean this. This is not hyperbole. It is the goddamn media, the MSNBCs of the world, the CNNs, of course, the Fox News, but it is these media outlets, which unfortunately hundreds of millions of people still watch, that covered Donald Trump nonstop. And if Trump has proved anything through his entire career, it is that bad news is good news. All news is good news. If they're talking about you, you're winning. It doesn't matter if they're insulting you. You're in the minds of Americans, and that is a positive. And so he has made his entire career over just get in the news however you can. Even if you have to walk up to the front steps of the White House, drop your pants, and take a dump on the doorstep, you'll still be in the papers the next day. Good enough. His whole career has been based on that. And this media has gotten him elected once, and they're getting ready nearly twice, and they're getting ready to do it a third time by covering nothing but Trump. He got in his election, the one he won, he got 16 times as much coverage as Bernie Sanders when Bernie Sanders was in the race. He got 10 times as much coverage as Genocide Hillary. So, and this is from the outlets that are supposedly trying to make him lose, trying to get the Democrat elected.
Don't want a Trump presidency, then are you not worried about what he could do domestically to this?
So then she's like, well, you're making some interesting points about the whole we're supporting genocide thing. But just put that aside. Just forget all of the genocide talk for just a second, and let's focus on domestically. Are you not scared of Trump right here? Who cares about genocide? Don't worry about it. And of course, this is all also a show because Trump would be equally genocidal. So the whole, we got to keep Biden in there. He's not going to stop the genocide. We got to get Trump in there. Well, he's not going to stop the genocide. So what are we voting? They're the same on this issue. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, she tries to make them focus on domestic issues.
This country?
It's like a vaccine. I'm willing to take short-term pain for a long-term gain. I'm willing to let go of Joe Biden and oppose Joe Biden, make him a one-term president, punish Joe Biden by making him a one-term president and pairing his loss with the genocide in Gaza.
Why does our democracy, why is having a Trump presidency more important than those people's lives?
Yeah.
Why is our democracy more important than thousands of men, women, and children being killed?
So she makes a brilliant point there at the end. And it's funny because she's, if you're listening to the podcast, which is called The Lee Camp Show on Spotify, for those of you who haven't checked it out, but if you listen to the podcast, you can't see this, but she is the youngest of them, I think, by far. And she makes an excellent point. Unfortunately, she also gives in to the premise that if Trump gets elected, it means the end of our democracy. Our democracy was gone long ago, okay? So let's just throw that premise out the window to begin with. The democracy is done, okay? It is owned. The 2014 Princeton study showed clearly, very clearly, scientifically, that anything that Americans want that doesn't align with the corporate interests will not happen ever. So the democracy is done, and that's just one of 4,200 ways I could list that the democracy is done, if it ever existed. I don't know that it ever did. I mean, when they said all men are created equal in the Declaration of Independence, it was 6% of the population. 6% white landowning males. White landowning males were actually what they meant when they said all men are created equal. Those were the people that could vote, white landowning males. So that was not a democracy to begin with. It was, an apartheid state at minimum. But anyway, to ignore all that, so I just want to say she shouldn't have accepted that premise. But even if you accept that premise, that, Trump gets elected, it's going to harm our democracy, why is that more important than these people's lives? Huh? You're going to just vote for a man who's supporting genocide because the mainstream media is going on and on about our democracy? It's just stupid. It's just utterly ridiculous. Anyway, I enjoyed watching MSNBC have their minds blown in this segment. They clearly did not know what they were up against. Okay, I am about to end. We're sticking to this topic, fighting back against genocide. There are so many awesome heroes across this country. I know these are tough times. These are awful times in so many ways, in like a million different ways. I know you're both struggling in your own lives, but on top of that, you got to turn on the TV or the computer and see kids being killed while they fly kites. For God's sakes, while they fly kites. And so it's horrific in so many ways. However, I do want to highlight the positive things that are going on, the people that are fighting back, the people that are standing up, the people that are not okay with just allowing this every day. And there are so many. I don't find out about most of them, right? Because when someone goes to their legislature and calls them to account, I don't see most of it. So I don't hear about most of them, but B, I don't have time to show you every protest. But I thought this one was just so perfectly done for a few reasons. But it looks like a college class. I mean, it's their back, so I can't tell, but they look pretty young. But they're talking to it's a Lockheed Martin. It's like when a professional comes to a college or via Zoom comes to a college, and the students business students, whoever they are, get to ask him or her about their career. That's basically what's going on here. So the college or the class, whichever it was, it's unclear, invited a high-ranking employee of Lockheed Martin to speak. Oh, here it is. University of Texas at Dallas. I didn't realize where it was. So University of Texas at Dallas asked him to speak to Dallas at University of Texas. And here are some of the kids' questions of the Lockheed Martin higher up employee.
Jets, and the years since that you worked on the F-35.
Oh, hold on. I'm starting it over.
Resume during the 18 years that you spent working on the F-22 jets, and the years since that you worked on the F-35. If you were to give an estimate, how many children do you think you've killed?
I don't even know how to answer that question, nor will I give it a shot.
I'm going to keep playing it, but he goes, I'm not going to answer that question. I'm not even going to give it a shot. He has no way. Like, of course, if you're working at Lockheed Martin, you've killed a lot of children. Even if you want to claim it was by accident, you're still killing a lot of children. You're a weapons contractor. You get rich off of kids dying. And I love that they asked him that, but it keeps going.
Hey Ross, as a business major, company culture is a big factor when looking for internships, especially at a project manager position where you can spend most of your time working with others. What can you share about company culture and working with a team of genocide supporters and murderers?
That's another one I'm not going to answer because that's not who I work with.
I love that the guy said, company culture is really important. What can you, office culture, what can you share about working with genocide supporters and murderers? Oh, this is so beautiful.
And I'm just wondering, as let's say an intern working on, like as a systems engineer or software engineer, I don't know if you'll be able to speak on this, but would you be working on a small part of those systems? Are you working on projects with business impact? Like, would I be kind of doing like a small little side project, or would I be able to directly contribute to the murder of Palestinian children?
Good question.
He said, good question. would I only be working in a small side project, or would I get to murder Palestinian children directly? And the fucking douchebag said, good question. I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you asked me how many children we murder. This is such a beautiful protest, and I just want to say it like, it's so important to get creative with your protests and to change it up. And because the thing that has been, and I've been showing a lot of these, that a lot of people have been doing, is just interrupting politicians and yelling at them that they're committing genocide and not letting them get through their speeches or whatever. And I'm all for that as well. In this case, they had a unique chance to keep being handed the mic, right? They were able to get in line, say, I have a question, and be handed the mic. And so they could each pretend as if I'm not part of the protest. I'm just an average student asking a question. And each one of them could then ask a question about what it's like to murder children. And it's just so beautifully done. And the way they acted as if it was some kind of genuine question, I love it. I love it. And maybe part of the reason I love it is because it seems kind of similar to my one and only appearance on Fox News, which I will now show to you yet again. It's been many years since I've played this, so maybe you haven't even seen it. This is from 2008. 2008, Lee Camp.
All right, Julia and Lee, we appreciate it. And I'm sure you guys are going to have a lot more jokes for the rest of the campaign here.
No.
They just keep coming.
What? Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
What is Fox News? It's just a parade of propaganda, isn't it? It's just a festival of ignorance. What? Why 1 million
Fox
people are
News?
dead in Iraq? Come on, this is ridiculous. What's the point of this? This is insane.
Well, I love,
go
I
out,
love
people
Fox
at home.
News.
Go outside. Go hug your
Lee, you
children.
should be more.
Well,
Lee,
Fox
you should
News
be more
will be-
worried.
Love your family. You know.
And you
should
get
be more
all the
worried
news
that
at
Hillary
Fox.
Clinton is running.
All the news you
And-
can at Fox News. All right, thanks.
And I
guys.
think, okay.
All right, that's it. All right. We're also talking about Captain Kirk this morning. And hey, because it's Saturday morning, we're having some fun. Greg, you've got the cushiest job in the world.
There you go, folks. Fox News bringing you all the news you can get, is what he said. Yeah, and now we're talking about Captain Kirk. As back in 2008, that's the only time I was ever invited on Fox News. And yeah, I was reading articles at the time about how we'd been told only like 10,000 people have died in Iraq, and the estimates from the Lancet Medical Journals and others was actually 1 million. And I was reading those articles and thinking, and they wanted me to come on to do just a silly comedy segment. And I was thinking, I can't just go on and do jokes. We're murdering children. Like, we're murdering innocent people. I can't just. And so instead I did that. You got to use those opportunities you get. All right, let's move on to and by the way, speaking, I didn't plan it to have these two work together, but I'm actually going to later in the episode, if I have the time. If not, I'll do it Thursday. But if I have the time, I'm going to destroy Greg Gutfeld, so from Fox News. And yes, someone is asking whether that's Clayton Morris from the online show Redacted, and yes, it is. That lunatic worked for Fox News for like a decade, then left, then stole the name of my show because my show was Redacted Tonight. He created something called Redacted, which has very similar branding and colors and things in the name. So he created his little garbage show, Redacted, and you know, every once in a while, people will find a clip of Redacted, and they think it's doing something good because he's anti-war to some degrees. He'll reveal what's actually going on in Ukraine, etc. So kind of like Tucker Carlson. So they'll find a clip like that and they'll go, "Wow, this is Redacted thing is really good," and they don't realize that this is a guy who is basically right wing, but with more of a isolationist bent, at least as far as I know. But even if it was a great show, which it's not, go twat face. Stole the name of my show, stole the branding, and it just so happened that his show started to get more popular around the same time that Redacted Tonight, my show, was banned from the airwaves. So, all right, let's move to the diplomats walking out of the UN as Israel is speaking. And I know it's from a month ago, but I wanted to show it anyway.
And grave security threats. The Middle East is suffering from a cancer.
It is just a long stream
today, the Security Council
of diplomats
has only ever discussed
walking out of the UN.
Cancer, Mr. President, is not treated with aspirin. The
As
time has
Israel
come
is
for this
speaking,
council
it's
to
one
address
after the
and
other.
eliminate the root of this cancer.
I love it. Another good form of protest. So now let's move to you guys remember the stories on UNRWA, the UN RWA, the largest aid agency in all of Palestine, over 700 schools, feeding people, over 9 million medical visits for Palestinians a year. And Israel has successfully gotten them largely defunded by claiming that 12 members of UNRWA, which is a 30,000 member organization, 12 members were involved with October 7th, and they have given no evidence that that's actually the truth. And now you have, this is the update, now you have even U.S. intelligence is casting doubt on the Israeli claims of UNRWA Hamas links. So even U.S. intelligence is saying it's likely bullshit. Thank you, Ruth, so much for the donation. Truly appreciate it. You're a rock star. Can't do this without you guys. So if you want to support this show, you can do it via Super Chat. You can also do it at linktree.com/Lee Camp. And you can also do it by becoming a member at leecamp.net. Anyway, U.S. intelligence assessment of Israel's claims that UN aid agency staff members participated in the Hamas attack on October 7th said some of the accusations were credible, though could not be independently verified, while also casting doubt on claims of wider links to militant groups. Yeah, could not be verified. There is no evidence that this actually happened. And even if it had, I said from day one, because I didn't know what evidence they would bring forward or whatever. I said from day one that they started these claims, even if there were 12 members of UNRWA that were involved in October 7th, there's 30,000 employees. It doesn't, if 12 guys in Apple were to rob a bank, you don't declare the end of Apple computers. Like, if 12 guys in Amazon robbed a bank, you don't get rid of Amazon. Now, I wouldn't mind either of those things, but I'm just saying. The intelligence report released last week assessed with low confidence that a handful of staff had participated in the attack. Low confidence, which means essentially zero evidence. The report mentioned that although the UNRWA does coordinate with Hamas in order to deliver aid and operate in the region, there was a lack of evidence to suggest it partnered with the group. And here's the thing. Although it partners with Hamas to get aid to the region, of course it partners with Hamas to get aid to the region. Hamas is the government of the region, whether you like it or not. Hamas is not just militants. It also is the government. It also is the aid agencies. It also is the people that pick up the garbage. Like, it's the government. So, yeah, I'm not saying you gotta love them, but of course, if UNRWA didn't partner with Hamas or the government of Gaza, there would be no aid in that area. So it's just like people like, well, they were meeting with Hamas. Yeah, it's the government. And then finally it says the report added that Israel has not, quote, shared the raw intelligence behind its assessments with the U.S. Yeah, I wonder why that. Do you not think if Israel actually had evidence, they wouldn't be shouting it from the hilltops? They wouldn't have printed it out and in giant building-sized banners and put it up on the skylines across cities. Of course they don't have it. If they had evidence, they would have given it to the U.S. government immediately, because they want nothing more than to destroy this aid agency. Because, as I brought to you at the beginning of the show, they're hoping famine will kill as many people as bombs and disease will kill as many people as bombs. And here you have even U.S. intelligence that largely does dirty work for Israel. Here you have even U.S. intelligence saying, yeah, we got no evidence of that. So the whole evidence thing about that. Okay, let's move on to Nord Stream. Updates on Nord Stream, the Nord Stream pipeline and the explosion and the investigation, quote unquote. Wow, Steve, thank you so much. You're the best. Thank you for the donation. You guys keep this show going. Thank you so much, Steve. We're going to head over to rumble.com/Lee Camp. It is free to watch there. So for you, those of you new to my stuff, don't worry. Free to watch, rumble.com/Lee Camp. And that, if for those of you watching on Rumble, everything stays the same. Nothing changes. Locals, it will also keep running. So I hope to see you all over there. We're going to get into Nord Stream, and I'm going to try to have time for the police story as well. Got a lot of stuff coming. So I will see you. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. That's RMU. No, it's not. Nope. Ignore that. Scratch that. RUM, like drinking rum. Okay, now I'm thirsty. BLE.com/LEECAMP. Rumble.com/Lee Camp. And I will see you there. Let's see if I can put it on the screen. How about that? There it is. There we go. All right. Look at me, all high tech. Okay, see you over there. Let's do it. And for those of you on Rumble, thanks for being here. Just give me 1 second.